we will be touching the surfaces as well as scratch the depths of the tech transfer as well in this meeting. So the aim of this today's meeting is to set the tone that technology transfer is very important. Having an IP is good, but an IP without any money making is a liability asset. So a tech transfer is one which would give the life to the IP, and that is where the technology transfer significance has to be understood. And when we are in academic institutes, what are the challenges in technology transfer and how to overcome it is what we will be discussing in terms of overcoming the value of debt from the academic institute to the industry partners. So considering this session, there are few images which we have used also, considering that I've kept a copyright note that it is under the fair educational purposes. And Dinesh has given an excellent introduction. But I wanted to stress that all my career, right from my PhD onwards, I am into pet informatics. I am a scientist who has explored the in and out of the patents in all the fields. And after working in all the public organizations, private sector, consultancies, and MNCs like Saint-Gobain and Department of Biotechnology, now I'm in IIT Madras since 2022 as a head of IPM cell for handling the technology transfer and licensings. So with this flow presentation would be, first we would understand the ecosystem of the technology transfer processes, why it is important for the TT to be significantly boosted in academic industries. And we will see through the various approaches of challenges, limitations, what are the value of deaths for a technology and how to overcome that value of death, and what are the various routes of commercialization. And maybe we'll not touch on the technology triaging part, but we will see through why it is important to create a pipeline for licensing in the academic institute. And afterwards, we will understand the techno-commercial readiness and market maturity level matrix. And this matrix is one very important metrics when you are assessing any of the technologies. So be it the technical field, commercial field, or the market field, it would give you where you exactly fit into the matrix and what are the activities that you have to do so as to overcome and go to the next phase of the TRL or MRL. As I told, we as an academic institutes were given a mandate to teach and educate the citizens, and after the teaching and educations, now we are into the R&D, research and development. Now, most of the academic institutes, traditionally what they do is they establish the institute, they have a department, they have a research based and they'll publish the research in the journals. Now, in the current academic institutes, this has been changed, that we need more than just a research and development. We are bringing in innovations, we are bringing in IPs, and these IPs have to be protected. Now, there is a technology creation and a knowledge transfer happening between the institutes. So when the IP is created, it has to be also commercialized either in the mode of spin-off through the institute itself or else through the licensing. And these IPs should generate some money so as to make the existing TTO or the IPM cell self-sustainable. So the more collaborations, now what we can see is, now we are seeing a more terms of collaborations in terms of industry partners, in terms of having a Section 8 companies, in terms of NGOs getting associated into this, in terms of CSR fund projects which are getting associated into our industry. So having a full ecosystem where you will not only have the academia, you're having an industry partner through a sponsored project, you will have a consultancy project, you will have a co-sponsorship project in association with some government bodies. Government bodies can directly fund the our institute, say X fund like TITCO is funding this thing. Likewise, there are imprint projects wherein the government is funding the institute and the industry partner in collaborations, where you are supposed to take the TRLs from 4 to 5. Now ANRF is doing an excellent job in terms of funding this translational research support. Now, having said that, there are an ecosystem which has been built in the in at least the IITs, the Section 8 companies scenarios, which is running around in terms of having its own incubation cell, having the startups, spin-offs, and incubating of the startups as a non-profit organizations. And with this, there is an involvement of investments and funds into this one. So an institute is no longer just doing the study, I mean, not curriculum alone, but also the R&D and bringing the technology. It's handling now a multiple stakeholders. So the expansion of student mentor relationship has gone much beyond the curriculum alone, but we are doing a much better jobs. So in this scenario, what we have to learn is that there should be an IPR policies. When you're having a multiple stakeholders getting involved, there should be a clear guidelines of how to handle the IP. So that is where the institute should have a clear IPR policies. If your institute do not, then it is the time to just tap on to the authorities or the management to check that this is a very essential and this is a basic criteria. When somebody is talking about how to file an IP or how to do a TT, there should be a precedent document on which you would be referring the clauses to handle these things, issues. So if there is no IPR policies, the first thing you have to do is to have a IP policies, and then set up of the technology transfer office or the office which manages the IP. And this office is responsible. Now, having this office would be recommended, because what I see in most of the institute is there would be an in-charge professor who would be given an additional charge of the tech transfer or the IPs, and they have to juggle up between the doing the research by themselves, they have to do the teaching, they have to evaluate the papers, they have to meet their criteria in terms of publication, they have to meet their criteria in terms of filing a patent, and also if they are doing a commercialization, that's a huge task. So there should be an office who would help you in terms of filing the IPs, that professor can spend more time in terms of doing an R&D. Now, how the human capital of this tech transfer would go, we will look into all these aspects, and how to bring the technology from lab to market is we would see. And in order to get this technology from lab to market, what are the technology transfer agreements that are associated? Now, this could be a licensing agreement, this could be an assignment, this could be a deed of validation, testing and validation agreement, or it could be a agreement of material transfer or such. So what are the various forms of agreements that you can see in, and how to manage the whole academic assets, IP assets in a single point. Now, this is an innovation ecosystem. Now, to understand the technology transfer process, it always begins with an idea. The idea which has been evolved out of the brain, which has no tangible output, but all intellectual assets which are there in the brain. And this idea, when meets the three requirements, that is the novel, which is an idea which is novel, which is inventive, which has an inventive step, which is non-obvious, and which also has industrial application. So when your idea is meeting all these requirements, then it is called as an invention, and that's where we will see the preliminary invention disclosure is being discussed, and in this preliminary disclosure will be evaluated against a prior art. So a proper prior art will be performed by the experts or the patent analyst or their respective patent agent, to see whether you whatever novelty you claimed is actual novel or not. And they would bring out the prior art documents to either challenge your existing novelty, or else to prove that your novelty is actually new and existing prior art is not there. So after doing a proper assessment, they will position the IP. When IP positioning is very important, because it is IP filing and prosecution is a pretty expensive job, and you have to position your IP where you can afford. So there are many countries where you can file an IP which is very expensive. So you have to position your IP, whether it is a patent, whether it is a copyright, or a trademark, or a design rights, or a integrated circuit. So you have to choose your IP where it falls, and then once you position that IP, you select the respective jurisdictions. Like if you are in India, there are 4 offices, around 5 offices including central. So for us in Chennai and the south zone, there's only one office, Chennai Patent Office, and that's where you have to go and file the application. Based on your residency, your application will be taken. but the guarantee would not happen that it would only be evaluated in Chennai. Now the Chennai Patent Office has gone into a complete online portal application process where the application is collected online, the prosecution and the hearing and the FER responses, everything happen online, and the dedicated patent examiner could be picked up from anywhere, from any of the patent offices from India. So there is a transparency that your patent would go in a fair mode in terms of online and digital transaction mode. And if you are well versed, you know how to file an IP, good, you can file, but I would not recommend you take a support of some attorney firm or a patent agent, or just simply go to your IP cell or the TT cell, ask them to help you out to draft the application. Then that's where we do in IITM that our professors will not file the applications. We help them file the applications. We help them in the hand-holding the drafting and prosecutions so that their invention is docketed in our IP office. And we will take the help of some attorney firms as well. So in your case, if you are a startup, there is an advantage for startups that they can also completely waive off the fees. There are certain schemes where you would be reimbursed with patent application fees as well. There is no filing charges taken up, and you can also use some path scheme. There are some schemes called path and other in biotechnology where where the DBT would fund your filing prosecution and even taking that to international. So you can use these schemes of government to file the applications. Now once you file, until you get it granted, in certain cases you can get a grant within a year, in certain cases your grant could be beyond a year or 2 and 3 years, it depends. And if your application is filed somewhere in 2010 or around, the people are still waiting in line still for the FER responses. So there are certain backlogs in which have been rectified now, and patent office is trying to boost their patent filing granting procedures in an expedited, transparent manner. Now at any given point of time I can do the licensing. It's not like that I should have a grant in my hand, I should license it out. The moment I file an IP, I should start my licensing activity. I should not wait for it to get it grant. The reason why I'm saying is the grant process will take time, and after, see, imagine if your grant is taking 2 years and you start searching after 2 years, it would take another 2 years for you to get your inventor or industry partner. So by the time you will be losing 4 years of your valuable time, and patent is only valid for 20 years, which is like 1/4 of the life is already lost. So the moment you file an IP application, you should start your licensing initiatives. And when you're doing your licensing efforts, maintain the CDA, NDA, and confidentiality clauses. I mean, when you're discussing with the industry partner, especially if it is a provisional, and in those cases it would safeguard you that you have an interaction, you as a disclosing party to the industry, it would safeguard your interactions with the industry partner, and it would give an upper leverage if any legal litigation happens. Now in order to do the licensing, what TTO does, now whether, I'm not sure whether the PI should do it. This is not the case. I'm not suggesting that all these activities have to be done by the PI, because I see a lot of them are professors and practice. So you should have a knowledge that when you are starting your IP licensing, you do a marketing plan, like licensing strategies, how I should license it out, or should I license it out on an exclusive, non-exclusive, should I do an assignment date, should I do a sale deed, should I do material transfer, or should I do a limited licensing deal or option licensing. So we have to have a clear-cut idea of what we have to do. Then you should approach the industry partner. Okay, this is what I wanted to do. Please let us know whether you would like to take it. And if there you are like, I would give a vague understanding. My team sends an email of around 100 to 150 for single technology, and hardly they would get 5 email responses, of which only 1 or 2 would be a positive one. So it's very challenging job in terms of fetching an industry partner, but you would be happy if there is already association between an industry partner, like the public private partnership, PPP, which I heard about. It would be easy for you to engage the same partner into the commercialization. Now when you are identify the partner, you would also negotiate the deals. In terms of how to negotiate the deals, is called as a BATNA negotiation, best alternate terms for negotiating agreement. So you would set those things. These are big terms, but you would set those limits that I would sell it at this range and I would not sell it at this range. So having that terms and conditions agreed between the partners, then you will enter into an agreement. Once agreement is done, it's time to collect money, and that's what post licensing monitoring, that how much money is coming. Because when you're collecting the money, you should also make sure your GSTs, your TDS, your central audit is compliances, and you're also making the invoices and audit sheets all accordingly norm to the Indian. So here we have a patent documents in IP positioning. Once I license it out, then I'll get into a product. And this is where TRL is critical. I would explain about what TRL is good for commercialization, which would be easy to go at. Now that I have already told you very clearly, there are two aspects. Filing an IP is one chapter and commercializing an IP is another chapter. And both of these chapters are independently dealt, and both of this run parallelly as well. So they are independently and parallelly associated one another. So let's go how you are differentiating. Any questions so far? I would have be happy to answer from the participants. I'm just checking whether my internet connection is working or not. Yeah.
Hello, sir. I'm
Yes.
Bharati. So I have a query. Suppose if it is a software-based application, do we have a patentability here, or should we go for a copyright? Suppose if in
So
developing in our quarter.
So if the software, there are two parts, Bharati. When I said in your IP positioning, let's go back to my IP positioning. So this is where you're discussing. You have your, you're bringing me a software associated with some hardware or purely software.
Software associated with hardware.
Software associated with the hardware, still you can try your patent filing, because there is some hardware which is there, tangible things, so there is a possibility for you to try a patents. However, if there is none, if it is only a purely software, then you should position your IP as a copyright. So rather than spending money on the patents, you should position yourself for a copyright. In fact, now in your case, if there is a hardware, you can position both patents as well as copyright and file if you have money. So if you don't, then if you want at a cheaper rate, then you would go for a copyright. So if you are having time and resource to efforts to go ahead, you can go for a patents. So that is where we decide. So if it is a software, we will go mostly into the copyrights, but if it is associated with any hardwares and others, we have to check the feasibility of the prior art and see whether we can get also a patent rights.
It is like product. This is like the hardware component what we are using, which has been already having an IP. The product which we are taking for deployment is already having an IP.
Then your
So
IP will not meet the requirements for the novelty, because the existing prior
okay,
art is existing. So then you have to make the changes, or else you have to go for another IP position.
okay, fine, thanks, sir.
Hmm.
Got it. Thank you.
Okay. Okay. Now
Sir,
let's.
sir,
Yes.
I do have one more query. Sir, actually, our work is based on the preparation of nanomaterials pertaining towards the supercapacitor fabrication. Is there any possibility to file IPR for the preparation of nano-based materials like nanocombs, nanopyramids, or nano-based structures?
In your case, the positioning of the IP would be patents, and in this place, what you were talking about, I see you can go for something on process of preparing the nanomaterials is one type, or else the composition of the nanomaterials itself, like how the drug composition is happening, how the drug is getting captured, encapsulated, what is the size of the nanoparticle, and how well it is differentiated from the market. So definitely in nano sector, there's a technology associated, you can go and file for a patenting. But whether you're doing a process patent or a product patent, process patent is a preparation of a nanomaterial methods thereof kind of thing. No, you wanted to do a product in the sense, not a product, if you wanted to do the material, like the composition of the nanomaterials, the drug commodities which has enhanced the bioavailability of the drug, to 70% and absorption has been enhanced to 90%, something like that. The composition of the drugs can also be another option for filing a patent. Definitely you can check into the potential of IPs there in patents.
Okay, sir. Thank you. Thank you. So hopefully I think we should plan for both the process flow as well as the product. So for the process
No,
flow,
what I see is when that is what we have to be cautious. When you're filing two applications, you will be paying for two applications. So when you're filing for two, imagine you filed in India, each patent is costing you say 1 lakh rupees, you're filing 2 lakhs rupees. Fine. Now you're filing in US. Now that 1 lakh will convert to 10 lakhs. So your 10 lakhs will become 20 lakhs. So be wise. I mean, if you can accommodate the things into single, until and unless the patent agent examiner says these are two different inventions, go ahead and file for two. That's fine. But otherwise, also always think the budget in line that okay, if I'm doing so, how much I should invest. If you have enough budget, you can go for two applications. If you don't, then try to squeeze into one. Both process and this.
Okay, sir. Okay, fine.
There is a possibility when you discuss with your attorneys, they will guide you much clearly of whether we should go for one or two. But that is what I'm telling. If you're going with two applications, then you have to pay double the fees of everything that you're doing.
Yeah, sure. I should find whether it is worth of going for two or it's better to have the product based on the same material.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. I got the point, sir. Thanks.
Yeah. Thank you. Thanks for asking your questions. Now we'll dwell into the IP filing and prosecution is what we have discussed too much now. Let's enter into the TT. Now that is where this cycle shows. We have an invention which has been disclosed. We did a prior art and the patent is protected. Now you have a patent. Now like institutes like IIT has 3,000 patents, of which 1,700 to 2,000 are valid now. So how am I going to pull out the patents which are very much essential for me, which has a higher potential? That's what you have to see. If you have only one patent, there's no problem. You will work to commit your complete time. But if you have more, then you have to somewhere or the other put some stress on something more so that it becomes more productive. And that's where the technology triaging is done. And when we do the triaging, we'll try to evaluate the patents and try to pull out the cream of the patents which have the higher potential at a higher TRLs, which has a proof of concept seen, where we have demonstrated that into the relevant environment, where we have actually done the research and proved it in the ecosystem where it is supposed to work. And that's where the higher the TRL, that easy to commercialize. And while doing this, we also do the market assessment validation, how a market is taking it. And the licensing agreement, as I told, will revolve around the same. But what you have to understand is IP drafting and prosecution skill sets are completely different than IP selling skills. So the drafting and prosecution is done by the registered patent agents who are skilled in art to draft the language of legal norms in terms of legality. But the skill of tech transfer is completely different. It's more towards marketing guy, an MBA guy who is ready to do a business, who understands the market needs, who can pitch the presentation to the right people in a right order so that it gets sold. So these are the various skill sets. Like you should have a business development knowledge. You should know how to negotiate. Your communication skills have to be very excellent, and you should know the nitty-gritties of IP. When you're selling your IP, you should know in and out of IP of what you're selling and how the market is going to take that. And networking is very good, important when it comes to the TT officer, not for the R&D persons, but for a networking, communication is very, very important for a TT person to succeed. So these are some skill sets one should have it. Now, as I am showing, are you seeing this hide bar? Should I hide this? Yeah. So as I can show you, this is a technology transfer ecosystem, and each one of this topic is in itself a big chapter to go through, dwell, and understand for a Monday training. When you're talking about an IP policies for an institute, we can sit and discuss 3 to 4 sessions in a day to understand from the basics how to start a policies and how to draft, how to submit and get it ratified by your boards. So each topic is a big thing. In TT ecosystem, you should have a knowledge of IP policies. It is also involved the partnership policies when you're bringing in the partner, how the TTO governance goes, the organogram of your institute or the hierarchical authorities. Then invention disclosure, how it is captured, whether all the technologies are classified and have been triaged so as to pull out the cream. How are you doing the outreach, and how the valuation is done. Now valuation is something which you, we will see through it in afterwards, but which is very much, when you talk about patent documents, you will say that claims are the heart of the patent documents. Likewise, if you talk about the tech transfer, valuation is the heart of the valuation, because uh, I can sell the same pen at 10 rupees, or I can sell the same pen at 100 rupees. How I pitch into my customer and where I am positioning my product, whether as a premium product or a commoditized product, and who are my targeted audience. So it's all a marketing strategy. So valuation all depends by the market. So we have to understand that. And once you decide, it is not your choice. For me, my IP is a $1 million deal, but not to everyone, right? You have to negotiate that $1 million, and you have to convince the other person to pay that $1 million to you. And that's a tricky part, and that's where you will negotiate, and you will then make a licensing deal. And then once you have that models, then your IP portfolio will be more, and you will have more contracts, and post management of the contracts is what we can see through it. So let's understand the valley of death. As I told, in every academic institute, the first valley of death falls at TRL 3 or 4, wherein say I have my uh, research and R&D has been done, and I have my IP positioned, I have filed, and I have my proof of concept ready, developed. But academic institutes cannot take this proof of concept beyond a certain level. So you can only validate it at a lab scale. At a good institutes like us, we can also do it at a relevant environment and bring that to TRL 4 or 5, even to 6. But we will not commercialize, because the institute mandate is not to commercialize an IP, not to commercialize in the sense not to market the IP, but we can commercialize it for a benefit of the society, and the market is taken care by that commercialization partner. So usually whatever proof of concept is being generated will be at a very crude stage. In order to commercialize it, you have to invest in it, you have to do a multiple iterations, you have to invest, not only invest time and resources, but you have to get regulatory approvals, you have to see the legal compliances, you have to see whether we are meeting all the norms as per the Indian government before you market it. So no, we were not going to do all those aspects. So the proof of concept, we will give it to some industry partner, and we imagine the industry partner to take it forward. If you are not giving it to an industry partner, if it is resting in the academic space, it's going to die. The reason is we don't have process and mandate to do the commercialization. So at a given point of time, you have to always give this IPs to some of the industry partners who have that expertise to take it to the market, and who have the knowledge of how to market it. Now these numbers, I guess, are a bit less. We will see commercialization would be only a 2 to 5% by max of any portfolio, and this 2 to 5% is what commercializes. The numbers are wrong. Now that is what we discussed. This is the first valley of death, and this valley of death is in the academia. So any of the academics, this valley of death has to be overcome, and this is done by the incubation cells. So the role of TT is minimum here. We would only identify the academic partner, we will identify the industry partner and do the licensing, but the incubation cell plays a major role in investing into that startup and getting support, all sort of support, so that it pushes up. So the TITCO or the DBT, DST, or IPM cell, or the IC cell, incubation cell, we help overcome all this valley of death for a technology through the government funded investments. Now, why government funds it is for the betterment of the India, that you bring a new technology, and if the Indian technology is good, then it would boom, and our economy will automatically grow. So understanding the first valley of death, overcoming how to do it, is through the licensing. And when we're doing a licensing, you should also have the understanding of technology readiness level, commercial readiness level, and market readiness level, which we will see in our next slides. But how are you going to overcome this valley of death? That is through the licensing. Now, what are the various types of licensing that I can do? I can do an option agreement or equity based, safe equity based agreement. An option agreement is that I'm not giving my rights right away. A short term agreement which gives company the first right of entering the negotiation for a licensing to give the technology. So here I'm not giving the actual licensing, but I'm also giving them the option to license it, and you would be the first person. There is a safe equity agreement. There are equity licensings which can happen, that is different, that is on the company shares. The commercial evaluation agreement is a commercial evaluation agreement are used for a grant of licensing under limited circumstances for a limited period of time to evaluate the technology. So if I were to evaluate some technologies, I wanted to test and validate these technologies, I wanted to see before I wanted to invest in it, then it's called as commercial evaluation agreement. And the other one is an actual licensing agreement. When you're talking about the actual licensing agreement, that is where you give them the rights to manufacture and sale on an exclusive non-exclusive basis, and typically this is a grant of licensing, and there where the sales happens, that's where we talk about the annual payment, down payment, royalties, and all sort of fees. Now there's another means of doing tangible research property license agreement, like you're working on an antibodies which are tangible, you're working on a cell lines, you're working on some biological materials, you're working on a plant variety, you wanted to transfer that. In those aspects, it would be recommended to go for a material transfer or a tangible research property licensing agreement, so that the terms of reverse engineering and other things are different. So all these have in principle the same, but each and every clauses would vary based on the purpose of your engagement, I would say. Then intangible research property licensing agreement. Intangible is that you have a tacit knowledge. If you are aware of the knowledge transfer, there is tacit knowledge, there is active knowledge. If you have a tacit knowledge which can be given, mostly the traditional knowledge, know-hows, this can be transferred through an intangible research property licensing agreements. And yes, there are spin-offs expressing, as I was talking about equity licensing and spin-off, and this is where you can also take an equity from the company, give it out to the licensing. Any questions here, I would be happy to answer. Now, this is a very important slide. I think this is your takeaway message for today, that there are multiple more, but these are some of the most widely used ones. Should I move to the next one?
Good evening, sir. Here I am having one small doubt, sir. Suppose if the institute and industry are jointly collaborating and jointly doing the research work, and they are filing IP on a jointly basis, at that time, how the licensing can be shared between the industry and institute, sir?
That's a very good question. I guess this is a question from the industry partner side of our partners, right?
No, sir. On my side only, I'm asking.
So what happens is, imagine METI is giving a fund on a public partner private limited fund which has been given. They set a norms. There are certain guidelines given by MIT while releasing that fund, that how the IP should be handled. That is one base grounds on arguing on how the IP should be. Now, the second point, if it is not just a MIT, if it is a sponsored project, the industry is sponsoring by themselves, there's an MOU between the partners. So before entering into the research agreement, you would also enter into an MOU saying that, okay, I'm sponsoring 50 lakhs rupees on this, and the IP is generated, and this is how we will dwell with that IP. And how we are dwelling with it is completely to the discretion of the individual partners. So court considers you both as mature people who have entered into an agreement in full consensus, knowing the implications and other liabilities. Then whatever you agree, you have to not release your IP free of cost. You have to take a charge, and that's where you will be charging them some money, and that's where you would get money back. So it will be dealt as per the MOU of that engagement.
Okay, sir. Thank you,
Okay,
sir.
great. Any other questions? Great. I think we'll move to the next one. As I told you, when your portfolio is too big, it becomes very difficult for you to do the licensing. That you have to have a strategy called as a pipelining. This is called as a technology triaging, where I would be, I have say set of 3,000 patents in my hand. How I can't commercialize all the 3,000 at once. Then I would do a market analysis, technology fit, product IP protection. I would check the TRL levels. I would do a we call this as a technology triaging, in which we do a criteria of rating the technologies in a order on against a criteria, and then we'll triage them to sequence it out to bring out to the IPs which have got the highest potential. And these are the IPs that would make money, and this is where you will bet on to go ahead. And these IPs will be more with respect to IP strength, what are the TRLs, market opportunities, industry demand, and innovation. So this is another set of the things. If your portfolio is very big, this is where you have to also dwell. You can check in of technology triaging, and you'll get to know. Now the second value of death, let's see, is at a scale of a startup value of death. This is called as a technology will not make it to the market because they could not meet the scalability of the technologies, and that's where and how to overcome that is also that is not actually a job of the uh, or academic institutes. That's more in terms of the incubation cell job. So you have to rely more on the incubation cell. You have to rely more on the incubation cell to get the supports in terms of investors, in terms of VCs, in terms of seed grants and other grants, where you can utilize those grants and properly. It might not be always the money. It could be some technical bottleneck which is not allowing you to make the products in large scale, and that's where you should bring in your CTO and new advisory person who can overcome the technical glitch and bring your technology so that you can manufacture in the mass scales. And as I was telling, you can go through this book, A New Lens for Innovation in New India, introducing the techno-commercial readiness and market maturity matrix. And this is published by Niti Aayog, Government of India. It's a very good book. It's available publicly, freely available. The PDF copies are there, where it will discuss about three aspects. When you see any of the technology, it has got the technology readiness level, it has got the market readiness level, it has got the commercial readiness level. Now how to determine, we can't go on each definitions one by one, but I'll try to give a simple gist that when you're talking about a technology TRL1, it is at a very basic nascent stage where you have an idea and you jot it down into the paper and you file a provisional, nothing beyond that. However, the technology 4 or 3 is where you have done your research on that idea, that your idea has been understood, and you have done R&D at your lab and created a proof of concept to materialize that idea into some tangible POC. And that's where this POC will not work in the market, but it is a proof of validation that this technology has validated using this product or this proof POC. And then if you go beyond that, it has to be demonstrated in the relevant environment, and it has to be also be operational in the demonstrated in the operational environment. So the more advanced you go, the more technology enhancement it would have, and the more chances for you to license it out. So mostly academic institutes will only be retaining their IPs in the area of TRL 4 to 5. But if you can see, if there is a support from the research park like TIDCO and other fundings, UNIDO, TIDCO, they are the organizations which are funding ANR of their organizations. They are funding to translate this 5 to 8, and that is where they are bringing in a norm saying that you should have an academic industry partner as a co-partner so that they can bring this product to the market, and they are spending almost 80% of the total fund of the project. And leveraging that funding here and bringing that technologies from one level to another is what we have to see. As I told, the same way when you're seeing the technology, you should also understand the market readiness level, that is MRL. And this is again falling under 1 to 9. the basics is 1 and the advanced market is 9. So if you see the advanced level, the product market fit validation is completed with proven scalability and a market share target fixed, which means that you will see that your product minimum viable product, if you understand the minimum viable product concept, that for a product to be called as a for a POC to be called as a product, it should have a minimum viable qualities, and that features are there, that is falling under 4. Now here you're talking about that feature has been validated and is being proven in the market, and you are also targeting market shares of this much within that area. So that set of feedback has to be also collected while you're doing. Now this is not your job as an professor to do this, so you should have your team or the people who are in charge of the market will perform this analysis while parallelly doing the technology analysis. At the same time, you should also do an analysis on the commercial readiness level. Now this commercial readiness level is also very important to leverage against the TRL and MRL and position your POC in a position where you will identify the gaps and take necessary actions to overcome that gaps and limitations. So as I was telling, when you are doing this metrics analysis parallelly in the sense you're doing a lab validation, while you doing a lab validation, you will plot the what are minimum viable product features, and you'll also take a feedback. Understood. Now coming with these gaps identified, you would try to incorporate the solutions in the next step, that you're validating with this feedback. Okay, there were some features missing, I put that one, and I'm seeing the market size is not having a certain segment or segmentations is not there, I'm introducing a new variant so that I can capture a new market. So identifying the gaps is important, and addressing those in our next TRLs will help your technology go to the market in an advanced stage. So for you to understand, so far what we have heard is only the script. For you to understand how this goes is a basic research. As I told you, TRL 1 and 2 is basic research, nothing but an idea formulated in the brain. Now you have got some funds called as a seed grant and other grants. Your idea, what you formulated, is been translated to a POC, which is like experiments, proof of functioning is done, and it has been verified, and there is a system which has been functioning in the readiness level. Now this is a basic research, gaps between discovery and application. Now this is a technology readiness level at 3 and 4. Now your idea is to make a here you can see your idea is to make a rocket. Okay, unlike your rocket is not ready here, the proof is ready, the validation is ready, and you would see the bits and pieces all compiled so that you can integrate and get into a rocket. Now when your rocket is only ready here, then you would make this work in the relevant environment, which means that you not only tested in the lab, you have gone into the site where it has to be. So we have a predefined sites to check these big spaces by the government of India. So you have to perform a big scale industrial big scale validation launch in a specific environment, that the market, if your system is claiming to have that it would go into the space, it would clear this hemisphere, and it would go launch a satellite into another hemisphere. So that part has to be validated, and if it is working, one piece has been working, which is totally fine. Now this is your whole piece of thing which is working. Now it is not marketed. Now marketing starts at 5th 8th 9th level, where you would do a batch testings, like the clinical trials, preclinical trials, and the post-clinical trials. This is like you do a batch testing to identify, you rectify it, and once you're ready, you will release it to the market. So this is where the product, understanding the various TRL levels and the product's cycle, I would only share one case study quickly of one of ours. Before that, I wanted to see if there are any questions to me on this. We will be happy to answer. So I'll just jump into another example of how we have converted the patents to product. This is a classic case of 𝗃𝗵𝗀𝗀𝗃𝗀𝗃. I have given certain patents to multiple vendors, and they have bought a product. Now this is the company, and I have chosen 𝗃𝗵𝗀𝗀 as a company which we have licensed. We have licensed this to other aspects as well. They have a fiber optic technology solution for multiple problems. This is the fiber optic U-bend sensor probe. This will analyze the various this has a sensors attached to it, which would give you a lot of analysis in terms of identifying the diseases or the analytes or the metabolites of this one. It can be used in food industry, health, or water, or any of the industries. So how the evaluation, now let me talk about it, because I'm not a technical guy. I might not sound correctly when I'm positioning my technology words. This is a U-bend fiber optic sensor. Technology is in versatile chemical and biosensing platform that provides precisely manufactured disposable U-force probes cartridge. The cartridge will be present here. This is a cartridge what you see, and this is a bent sensor, and this is a single point of care device for an array based system where you can analyze the samples within 20 minutes to get the results in a software. So I'll just show the journey of this one. So we started this journey in 2015 through an ICSR or IITM grant, and from there we got a grant from the IGST. As I told you, any of the technologies to go forward, what is required is grant and also the proper expertise. So they have filed their patent applications and for bending of this array, and they have identified this rod, the material, and the bending mechanism has been identified. And that's where in 2018 they have automated this fabrication, because they find it very difficult to do it manually. They automated through a fabrication where they can do in mass scale. And in 18 this got incubated in 𝗃𝗵𝗀, and the license was given to 𝗃𝗵𝗀 to take this forward. And this is a classic example of university spin-off in itself, that the professor himself through their students have started this company and has taken this forward. So again, as I told, as the technology progress, it's not just one patent application. There are multiple patents which have been filed. So there are more than 7 patents associated with this technology. One is the design of the material of this thing. Another is the bending mechanism. Another is the units. Another. So there are multiple patents which have been filed. Again, there was a funding from the NSCRB. And finally they have a single point of evaluation, like this is a single point of contact machine which they have prepared, that you dip and you will get your things, and the assessment will be displayed in the computer. And again, I have licensed this out to another partner, Recover in USA, so that the Indian partner don't have the muscle to go into the US. We need a US partner to bring this technology into US, and so that we can capture the US market. The US patents have been a lot of patents filed in US again. And thanks to TN, Startup TN has also has given the TANSEED fund in 2021, and it's a good part that the Tamil Nadu government is supporting all the inventions. Now, as I told, when we start with something without the government support or without the funding from the VCs, without the funding from the investors, it is very difficult for you to go forward. First is to get the fund, and once you get the fund, properly utilize that. Then in 2023, a final fiber cartridge and adapter was developed, and in 2024, they developed a full-fledged machine which will not have only a single, it would directly have 30 units of this cartridge analyzing 30 different samples in a single time, and the report is generated upward. So the traveling of this journey is associated not only the IITM's, not one patent, there are multiple patents in it. And this journey goes through multiple players, not just one player, because if you were to evolve into global markets, you have to have much better collaborations there as well. And this is a classic example of how a TRL 3-4 has been converted to TRL 9 and they are doing their businesses. Likewise, this is a TRL journey. If you could see, the TRL journey in 14 started with a seed fund, nothing but research and ideation by IITM. Technology is nothing but a wire. This wire has been converted to a bent product with this one, and a patent was filed. Then we have a cartridge added to it, lab validated. So far, everything funded by internal partners and one thing. Then I have licensed this to 𝗃𝗵𝗿𝗀 and 𝗃𝗀𝗀𝗃. That's where we have filed more patents, and this went beyond this single point. They have generated one single point contact machine, which again went into licensing further, and with the help of other grants, they generated a instrument which can do actual analysis in multiple in a dynamic manner. Now what you can see here is we have one patent, we got one more patent, so we've been adding to it. So a technology is not just one technology, it's a technology progressing, and every time when it's progressing we are getting one more IP. This IP is different from this IP is different from this IP, and these IPs are all associated into a final product, and this final product comes in with the involvement of multiple stakeholders. Otherwise, now this final product is gone into the US market. So if you were to capture the market, you should have a proper collaboration. So that's what I wanted to showcase, that it's not a simple task. It will take time and efforts. Not everything has to be this slow. Now this is a pre-seed grant given, and it's years of hard work of a professor, and the product has been launched. And they had these international collaborations with 𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃. They have filed patents in USA, China, Canada, Thailand, Australia, Hong Kong. They got national local collaborators as well, who have helped this. So he's a professor, Raghavendra Sai, and these are the PhD students, founding members of this organization. They are running their business. Now, having said, this is all through a technology transfer. Professor efforts is much appreciated because he has put in his time, efforts, and muscle into it, and he brought in this into the market. Now, the same case could be, you need not do all these aspects. Imagine yourself translating the thing in your TRL4 and resting silently at your desk as a professor and enjoying the royalties. In those cases, the industry partner would do all these aspects, and they would provide you the royalties which you can sit and enjoy. So the summary of the takeaway is, patent to product is a long journey based on the technology, especially if you're working on a pharma biotech. Imagine there would be a lapse of 8 years to 10 years of gap. Unlike you're working on a software related things, the technology timeline is that by next year or next couple of years it would be no use. Understood? So you have to understand what is the technology that you're working on and understand the stakeholders. Usually a product will have more than one or multiple set of IPs. This is very much sure, and it might also have a patents, trademarks, design, and everything in it. Understand the value of death. The first value of death is where we have to be focused about, and just push it from the ball from our end to the person who can take it to the goal. So it's like a relay run, or like a football player, that you cannot start from one end and you can't pull out a goal. You have to pass on the ball to the right player so that they can take it and do a fruitful results, because at a given point of time you don't have all the expertise that you will have it. Okay, and understanding the TRL, MRL, and CRL is very important. I have shown that one. You go and download that book. You can have detailed examples of how they have given. It's a very good book. You can go and read about it, and you'll understand a case study. Reading a case study will help you understand how to overcome it. Implementing the techno-commercial readiness metrics before you go for a product launch is very important, and dealing IP is critical, as it involves technical, legal, business compliances which needs to be met. Ignorance of law is no excuse, is what I say. If you go into a court case, then you can't say, I don't know, I'm not aware of this, I should file an IP, nobody told me that I should file an IP. Then ignorance of law is no excuse. You should know the law and then you should make your business.